Okay, so today we're going to practice the overhand grip. So again, that's just grabbing your pencil from the top. I like to kind of rest it in the palm of my hand like this, and then very loosely holding the pencil. I like to use my index finger to stabilize my pencil. And what I'd like you to practice using this grip today are straight lines. So we're going to try to do, whether you're right or left-handed, we're going to try the overhand grip, and we're going to try to draw some horizontal lines across the paper. And if you're right-handed, we're going to go left to right. If you're left-handed, you might try right to left, but we're going to go both directions anyway. So we're going to start by just drawing whichever direction with our overhand grip on our paper, trying to draw some quick, steady, horizontal lines across the paper. So let's do about 10 of those. Okay, and then once you get that, let's try to go the other direction. Again, we're drawing horizontal lines, so we want to stay parallel to the edge of the paper. So let's try the other way. So that looks pretty good. So look at your set of horizontal lines there, and if there are any that kind of look good to you, like a nice straight line, I don't know, maybe like part of this one is pretty good, or this one's pretty straight but not quite parallel to the paper. Okay, so we're going to take note of that. The next thing we're going to try with our overhand grip is doing vertical lines. And so this way, without turning the paper, we're going to try to pull lines down the paper in different ways. So we'll start at the top. You can do this two ways. You can either pull the pencil towards you like this. This does not work for me at all. See how wavy that is? Or you can do this direction, pulling the line down the page this way, which works pretty well for me. You could also try going up the page, still not very straight and not very perpendicular or parallel to the page. So not so good compared to my horizontal lines. I feel like my horizontal lines are a little bit better. So I'm going to make a note of that, like horizontal is better than vertical. I just want you to be conscious of what works and what doesn't work. Okay, so let's go over to the other side of our paper. And right now, we're going to practice using our overhand grip. We're going to practice doing some diagonal lines. So this can be from the bottom to the top. You can try from either direction. So I'm going from bottom left to top right. These are so much better than my horizontal or vertical lines. You can see, like, diagonal lines, the reason why they often turn out better is that we can just pull our arm quickly across the page, and this is what this overhand drawing grip is really good for. What you could do is try your writing grip. So this is your normal, well, your normal writing grip is like this. And then you can try this extended writing grip. And you can get probably similar results using this technique. Mine are really good from bottom left to top right. Not so good the other direction for me, but you could practice holding your pencil in different ways and trying to do diagonal lines the other direction, top to bottom or bottom to top, you can try. But in general, for me, I know that diagonal lines are much easier to make than any other type of line. So what does that mean? It basically tells me that when I'm drawing a straight line across my page, I probably need to tilt my drawing pad so that, I want to make a horizontal line here, let's say across the paper from one point to another. And if I turn my paper like this at an angle, I'm going to have a better chance of getting that long horizontal line straight across my paper. So take a minute to practice different hand holds. So you can try your extended writing grip. You can try, I really want everyone to try the overhand grip. And I want you to practice doing a warm-up. This is something you could do every day. But today I want you to just try to practice a straight line warm-up exercise. Once you figure out which lines are easiest to draw, then it kind of helps you figure out how to rotate or not rotate your paper. So if your best lines are horizontal, then you would just want to draw horizontal lines, and then when you want to draw a vertical line, you would rotate your paper and draw, again, horizontal lines. So we're just being conscious of what we're good at and trying to use that to our benefit. Okay, so what we're going to do now is talk about 1-point and 2-point perspective cubes. To draw a horizon line on our paper, we're going to use a straight edge. And so if you have a ruler, like this would be perfect. You can just draw your horizon line with a ruler. But if you don't have a ruler with you, you can just take a sheet of paper and fold it, line it up. So just take a sheet of paper out of your sketch pad and just make a nice folded edge like that. And then you can use this as a straight edge to practice today. So what we're going to do is draw a horizon line or an eye level line right in the center of our page. So I'm just going to take my straight edge here that I made, and with my HB pencil I'm just sort of lightly drawing a horizon line. If it's 1-point perspective, we can only see one plane of the object or one face. And that face that we see, which is the front face, is a perfect square. So we see the front face, but we can also sometimes see the top of our box, and sometimes we can see the bottom of our box. If we can see the side, then that actually is a 2-point cube, not a 1-point cube, so that won't work. So, sorry, let me quickly block this in again. So our goal is to start for any 1-point perspective drawing with a perfect or ideal square, because a cube is basically made up of 6 square planes, and we're trying to draw an ideal cube in this instance. If it's above my eye level line, which is the horizon line, then I will see the bottom. So if I put a point here, I would see the bottom edge of this box. If it was below the horizon line, I would see the top of this box. So this is the basic premise. Your homework is to draw a 1-point cube above, crossing, and below the eye level line. So what you're going to do is start with a square. Let's do the one on the line. And I want you to practice drawing freehand. So again, if you need to rotate your paper to get a nice straight line, like I do, I like to rotate my paper on an angle, and then I'm going to try to draw my square that way. The next thing you want to do is measure, so it might be best to use your pencil, and you're trying to see how in proportion your square is. So mine is pretty good. It's just slightly taller than it is wide, so I'm just gonna make it a little bit wider and try to make these really straight lines there. Okay? So once you have your cube placed, remember the rule for me, because we're drawing realistic objects, is that the vanishing point must fall somewhere inside the square. So I'm going to put my vanishing point a little off center. And remember, if it's outside the square, so if the vanishing point is out here, I would be seeing the side of the object also, but this is not realistic. We are not doing that. So the vanishing point needs to be inside your cube. Now, just connect from each corner. So imagine there's a little point at each corner. And again, you're going to draw a straight line. You can see how I ghost the line. I kind of lightly do it. And I am putting my hand on the paper right now, you can see that, to get a little stability. So there's my construction lines for my 1-point cube that bisects the horizon line. Now, what I have to figure out next is where the interior or the back plane of my cube is. I like to do this thing called Xing the plane, where I divide the bottom angles in half. This is quite difficult to do to get it lined up, but what it's showing me is where these lines bisect the bottom plane. That's how deep my cube should be. Then I just extend construction lines up to the next perspective lines, and then I connect those lines. The last thing I do is I'm going to put line weight on this cube. So I'm going to take, this is a 6B pencil, it's really soft. So I'm going to carefully darken the front square, the front face. And then I'm going to have, my construction lines are going to be a little darker in the front. So that's what a 1-point cube on the horizon line or crossing the horizon line might look like. So it's kind of like standing inside a room or a box. We're in the room looking at the back wall of a space. Let's try one above eye level. So I'm going to use my HB pencil again, And I don't want to put it too far above eye level because it starts to become a bit distorted. So I'm just gonna put it maybe like an inch from my horizon line, and you can rotate your paper or lightly try to draw your square. It's really bad. See, we're not perfect. We have to try a couple times to get it right. I'm gonna have to rotate my paper again because I really can't draw a straight line like that. Draw one line, draw another straight line. Try this. And then I'm going to measure this, and I can see about how wide it should be to make a perfect square. So that's a little bit better. Okay to start with. Remember that the vanishing point has to be within the width of the square, the front face. So again, I'm going to put mine off center just because I think it's more interesting. And then you're going to connect the vanishing point to the four corners. So again, I kind of very lightly ghost the line and then try to draw it. Also, just visualizing where the line goes is helpful. You can kind of see how to connect these 2 points and then draw those. Again, you can rotate the paper if that's a little bit easier. Okay, now what we need to do is bisect the angle. And so on this cube, I used the bottom angles when I bisected there. Here, I'm going to use the top angle because it's a little easier to see. So basically what I'm trying to do is find the exact center of this triangle. And it helps me to draw a perpendicular line like this to see if I'm really getting halfway. Okay, so here's where it intersects my perspective line. Then I bisect the angle this way. Again, I'm trying to get 2 equal triangles there. And then hopefully what I've done when I connect these is created a horizontal line, a line that is parallel to, the top and bottom of my cube. Now, I know that looks a little confusing because there's so many lines there, but the next thing you do is extend a vertical line for the next side down to the perspective line, and then another vertical line here to the perspective line. And again, we're hoping that these, when I connect them, make a horizontal line. The other thing I'm looking for is that this inside shape is a square, a perfect square. So it shouldn't be, this one is not perfect. It's actually wider across than it is tall. So I can tell that this one is a little rectangular. So probably what happened here is my square is not perfectly square when I started. This one looks a lot better. So the last thing you do is darken your lines. So like a thin line for the smallest square. Try to straighten that up. And then maybe take like your 3B pencil or 2B pencil, whatever, and darken the front face, which is the large square. So now we have our front face and our back face, and we have to connect them with the perspective lines, and so they should be a little darker or a little thicker at the front of the cube and transition to that back face. There we go. That's our 1-point cube above eye level. Okay, so I want you to practice doing a cube below eye level on your own, and we'll see how that turns out. So see if you can follow the steps. So you draw the square face first. Make sure that it is a perfect square, that it's perpendicular and parallel to the edges of the paper, lined up with your horizon line. Make sure that the vanishing point is inside the width of the square, and then connect the 4 points, the corners of your square, to the vanishing point. Then you bisect the angle. So you'll reverse what we did here on the bottom cube. And then you project your horizontal and vertical lines. So you project your, let's say, H and V lines, and to where they intersect with the perspective lines to create that inside face. So see if you can do that on your own. Okay, so for the second part of the assignment that is due next week, we're going to draw 2-point cubes. We're going to make a horizon line and 2 vanishing points, and then we'll be drawing a cube above a cube that bisects the horizon line, and a cube below the horizon line or eye level line. So again, I'm just taking my straight edge, and in the center of my page, I'm just going to lightly draw my horizon line across there. Okay, great. A 2-point perspective cube, remember, has 2 vanishing points, so I'm just going to do a little rough sketch up here to start. So I have 2 vanishing points. So my leading edge is that center line of my cube, because this time for a 2-point perspective, I'm going to be seeing 2 sides of the cube. So a quick demo, I draw a leading edge, and then I connect from the top and bottom of that line to my vanishing point. And this is a little harder because we're going to be doing really long lines across the page. And so this gets real tricky, but do the best you can. We connect the leading edge to the 2 vanishing points, and basically what I'm doing is creating the sides of my object. I'm going to bisect the angle on each side to figure out, where it touches my perspective line is where I drop a vertical line to create the side plane. I'll do the same thing here. I bisect the angle, and then wherever it hits or bisects my perspective line, I drop a vertical line to create the other side of my box. Now once those sides are created, I will connect to the opposite vanishing point. So here, to create the top of the box, I'm going to cross over to this vanishing point from here. I'm going to cross to the other vanishing point for the other side. And for these drawings, so here's my point where they cross each other. For this drawing, you're going to have to draw the inside of your cube as well. So I'm going from this perspective point to the opposite vanishing point, and this bottom point to the opposite vanishing point. And again, just like the 1-point cube, I'm hoping that where these lines intersect, I'll get a vertical line. You can see that this line is a little bit of an angle, not vertical. So that just means one of my perspective lines is off a little bit and probably needs to be a little flatter on the top. So this is just a very quick idea of what we're going to do, and I'm going to walk you through the steps on a larger scale here. This example is below eye level because the cube is below the horizon line. We can see the two front planes, but we can also see the top of the object. So you're going to do one above, one that bisects the line, and one below eye level. So let's try doing a cube that bisects the line. And don't make your leading edge any longer than like 2 inches. And 2 inches is pretty big. It would be about this big. Let's put the vanishing points on our paper. We're going to put them kind of close to the edge of the paper. And for this demo that I'm going to do for you, we're going to do all of the cubes using one horizon line. But for your homework, if you prefer, you could turn your paper in a vertical orientation, and you could do 3 separate horizon lines for your 3 theoretical 2-point cubes. So that way there's not as many like construction lines like touching each other. So you'll see what I mean. Okay, so let's do a 2-point cube that bisects the horizon or eye level line. So I'm going to draw a vertical edge, you want to try to make it as perfectly vertical as possible. And this is called the leading edge. And it is the center line of my box that divides my 2 sides that I can see. We're going to connect again from the top point and the bottom point to our vanishing point. And so this is where, you know, using your overhand grip or using your extended writing grip, you're going to try to use your arm, not your wrist, because we'll get a curved line if we use our wrist. Use your arm to draw the perspective line from the leading edge to the vanishing point. So again, I practice the line first. I try to ghost it lightly, and then I will draw it across there. Just try to get it close. Okay, so it kind of helps to go from each direction as well. And again, remember, you can move your paper, your pad, on an angle, which you can't really see this, but it makes it easier for me to draw that straight line across there, like in one stroke. So, I mean, that's our goal eventually. I'm making you do these freehand because I want everyone to practice their hand-eye coordination. And the more that we do it, the better we will get at it. So, all right, so now to create a 2-point cube, I need to show the 2 sides, and I have to figure out how wide the cube is. Once I have my angles clarified here, I bisect the angle again. So remember, the goal is to get an equal, like 2 equal cubes, or 2 equal triangles, sorry. You can see, hopefully you can see this, that this triangle is smaller than this one. So that means I need to change the angle slightly and try to make straight lines. If your lines aren't straight, you can easily make your side much too large. So you bisect the angle. I'm going to try it over here as well. Looks pretty good. I extend the line. Wherever it hits my perspective line, I drop a vertical edge, and that shows me the side of that object. And it looks a little wide to me, but this is not a perfect science because we're doing this freehand. So right now what I've created is the two side planes of my box. What I'm going to try to figure out next are the interior, like the transparent interior sides. So what I'm going to do now, because this drawing has more construction lines, I'm just going to lightly erase my bisecting lines so I can see what's going on a little bit better. You don't have to erase it completely. Don't worry about showing construction lines, because for me that's great because I can see the work that you've done, kind of like seeing how you've worked out a math problem. I want to see, you know, your perspective lines and construction lines. All right, so this is probably the hardest part. What I'm going to do is, from the new points that I've created, from where my vertical lines touch my perspective lines, I'm going to project new perspective lines to the opposite vanishing point. So, for instance, this one is going to go to this vanishing point. It's going to cross over. So something like that. This top one is going to go to the opposite vanishing point. And my lines are a bit fuzzy, but that's where my two marks are crossing. And I'm going to do it from the bottom as well. So I'm trying to extend the angle to that vanishing point over there. And then from this one, I'm going to the opposite vanishing point. So again, I'm trying to figure out what is that angle. And that looks pretty good. So what I'm hoping is that where these cross lines up on the back side. I start with the leading edge, I connect to the vanishing points, going both directions. I bisect the angle to decide how wide my cube is going to be. Then I create vertical edges where those lines intersect. And I project perspective lines then across to the opposite vanishing point. And this is going to show us the interior base, for instance. So if I clean up this line a little bit, you can see that this plane is the bottom floor of my box. So if I was inside the box, this would be where I would be standing. Now the ceiling, or the top plane, is made by this interior diamond. And so again, if we were inside this box or room, this would be the ceiling that we could look up at. This trapezoid is the back wall, the back right wall. This one is the back left wall. Again, it helps to do line weight, so take your like 2B or 3B pencil maybe, and start by darkening the leading edge first. And then the side angles will be dark, but not quite as dark as the leading edge. So you could either use a little pressure, or you could thicken the lines as you darken them. And then we need to darken the front lines. So this back line will be the lightest because it's furthest away from us. But these front lines we want to darken, and also the top here. Okay, so that is a 2-point perspective cube. It bisects the horizon line. So we actually, if it was a solid cube, we wouldn't see the interior at all. We would just see the front 2 faces. We would not see the top or the bottom because the cube is falling right at our eye level. Okay, overall, it looks a little wide to me, a little too wide. Just because I've drawn lots of cubes and I know that they tend to be a little more narrow from this perspective. So it could be when I bisected the angles, I just got it a little too big. So consider that when you're doing your drawing. I think a better perspective would be just to bring these in a little bit, kind of like this, would make a better 2-point cube. Okay, let's try one below eye level. Again, it gets kind of messy when you're using one horizon line with multiple cubes, but we're gonna, I just wanna show you that technique. In your own sketch pad, if you're worried about that, you can just create a new horizon line, 2 new vanishing points, and you could practice above and below the line. But for now, I'm just gonna do a leading edge, no more than an inch or so below my eye level or horizon line. And let's try to make that as vertical of a line as we can. I'm using my HB pencil again so that I can make light construction lines. And so I'm connecting to the vanishing point, which it's a lot easier when it's closer to you. It's much more difficult when you're trying to project across the page. So again, for this one, I'm gonna kind of ghost the line and connect to that vanishing point. Here's my basic angles, just so you can see them a little better. I'm going to bisect the angle, trying to cut this in half, make it a little more vertical. This side is going to be smaller, more narrow, because it's closest to the vanishing point, which makes it a sharper angle. Again, this is something that you kind of will learn intuitively the more that you do this. Let's bisect this angle. This side's going to be wider because it's further away from the vanishing point. So I'm actually seeing more of this side than the other side. So again, wherever you're bisecting angle meets the perspective line, draw a vertical line there. You can erase those bisecting lines again if they're in the way. And what we have to do next is connect our new points that we've created where our vertical line and perspective line touch. And we're gonna cross those to the opposite vanishing point. One thing you can always do is take your straight edge and see how close you got. This is where it should go. So it's not too bad. It was just a little bit getting high up here.
And this one too, I think it's a little bit, needs to be a little flatter. Remember, our goal is that where these lines cross creates a vertical line when we connect them. So that is pretty good. Just have to adjust a little bit. Then with a little bit of line weight, you want to darken the leading edge, darken these front lines so that we can show depth. So these middle lines are not quite as dark as the front line, and then the back lines would be the lightest. So that's a really good proportion for a cube. Again, I've drawn lots of cubes, so this one looks really good proportion-wise. So that's a 2-point cube below eye level. What I want you to do now is do a cube above eye level. And like I said, if you need to create a new horizon line, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to make one just because my page is getting real messy. And so I'm going to make a new horizon line and some new vanishing points. And I'm going to do a cube, a 2-point cube above eye level, off center. If you center your leading edge, basically, you'll be making a symmetrical cube. So the front edge and the back edge of your cube will line up perfectly. For practice, I just think it's good to try off center. So last thing I just want to show you is, and this is in the homework assignment, it shows the two options that I was talking about for the 2-point cube. So you could use a vertical format for your page with 3 separate horizon lines and then draw a cube above, on, and below the eye level line. Or you can do what I started working on today, which was 1 horizon line with the 3 cubes placed, 1 above, 1 crossing the line, and 1 below the line. When you look at that homework assignment, it has examples, which are also in the book, of what good versions look like. So just do your best. Practice your freehand straight lines. It's very important not to use a ruler to draw your construction lines. I want you to practice freehand. Just do the best you can. I'm excited to see what they look like. They'll be due next class.